Hey everybody, Drew Allen here with you. Host of the Drew Allen Show, your millennial minister of truth. Today's a super somber episode. Yesterday was really difficult. And look, this really is a tribute to Charlie Kirk. We have a lot to get into, a lot of serious things to take from this. And I just want to be transparent with you. I want to be honest with you. This isn't, I'm special. Everyone's going through this in the country. This is, as the title, says 9/10 is the new 9/11. That's not to diminish 9/11. I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. But I'll explain that all in a second. But first, bear with me, folks. I've been wrecked. I've been wrecked since yesterday. Now, I want to say this first because no matter what I'm feeling about the Charlie Kirk assassination, no matter what you're feeling, no matter what any of us are feeling in this country, no one is hurt worse than Charlie Kirk's family, his wife and his two children. And I think, this, I went on one show yesterday to talk about this. And, I'll just tell you, I'm not close friends with Charlie. You don't have to be close friends with Charlie, but I was Charlie Kirk's publicist last summer for his last book that came out. And I haven't felt this way since, there are, relations to, 9/11, 2001. I remember where I was, how I felt. Although yesterday, I got to be honest with you, I was so wrecked as the day went on. I had this just punch in my gut, this knot in my stomach that didn't go away, and it hasn't gone away. I woke up this morning thinking that maybe the emotions would have subsided, and they're not, folks. They're not. I can barely hold it together. And there are a few reasons for that. It's not because I was Charlie Kirk's publicist last time. That's not what it is. It's because Charlie Kirk could have been you, could have been me. Charlie Kirk was 31 years old. He was a few years younger than me. I'm 38. But I'm also married. And I have two precious young daughters, a 2.5-year-old and an 8-month-old. She just turned 8 months yesterday, actually. And I've never held my family tighter than I did yesterday and this morning. A friend texted me yesterday evening, and he said, I was giving my young son a bath, and all I could think about was that Charlie will never get that experience again. His kids won't get that experience again either. I'm sorry, folks. I spent the day with my wife yesterday in the morning. I just happened to do it. And we went to pick up my daughter from school together around noon. I live in California, so Pacific Standard Time. And my wife had said something to me yesterday morning. She said, yesterday when I went to pick up Winona, as we came to the car, she said, Dad, in car? Dad, in car? He's here? And I wasn't, of course. I was home working. But yesterday, I was in the car. Just happened to be. And it was sitting in that car when we parked. We got there a few minutes early. We were sitting in the car, and I got the news that Charlie Kirk had been shot. And that's where I was yesterday. And I couldn't even remember it. I had to ask my wife, when did we find this? When did I find out? When we got to the school, Drew, she said. And as I'm reading about Charlie Kirk being shot, and as the video came out, it was undeniable that he couldn't have survived it. My wife came to the car carrying our 2.5-year-old and the biggest smile on her face. Yesterday, Dad, in car? Today, yesterday I was in the car, and the smile on her face that Charlie will never see again. Such a simple thing, so sacred. That love. You see, none of this is about, it's about his family. I know it's hard to listen to, it's like, get it together, Drew. I'm really trying. I will. I mean, it'll be sporadic, but I will hold it together. But I'm sitting there thinking, Charlie, he's gone. He's got 2 young kids. He's married, just like me. And here comes my daughter, Dada. He's in the car. Here he is. And those kids, they'll never have that experience. They'll grow up without it. His wife, that's what I thought about all day. What is Charlie's family going through? So whatever I feel, this isn't about me, and there's a lot of that out there. I knew Charlie, and that's fine. People are well-intentioned, but his family, nobody's hurting like Charlie Kirk's family, and God bless you. Prayers for you. May God wrap his arms around you. And, I want to do something a little bit different, if you don't mind. I mean, I happen to be a Christian, a religious person. I know it was important to Charlie, and I would like to pray just because, this is one of those episodes where, I really sincerely wanted to be able to sit here and do this today because I thought it was important. And it's hard. And, I've been doing this for years now, and, there's show prep. There's a way you go about doing the show, looking up stories, pulling clips, bringing it all together. And I was up late last night till midnight, 1 a.m., and I couldn't prepare for this show. There was no way to prepare. I just said, God, please give me the words. Give me the wisdom to say what's right, what Charlie Kirk and his family deserve. Like so many people out there honoring him today. He is a hero. But I do just want to pray, if you don't mind. Lord God, thank you for the life you've given me and blessed me with. Thank you for this country. Thank you for the opportunities. We cannot understand why these things happen, why there's so much pain and suffering on this earth. But we know, because you promised us, that this is only temporary and that the pearly gates of heaven await. And I know that Charlie is embraced by you, and he's there now, and he's in heaven. There is no pain. There is no suffering. But I pray that you please comfort his family. And I hate the reality of this. It's both beautiful and ugly, but I know that good will come of this. I know that his life will not be in vain. I know that a torch has been ignited, and so many Americans, there are a million Charlie Kirks today. And I pray to you, God, that you use me, you use everyone listening, you use this nation to make this right. In Jesus' name, amen. So, Charlie Kirk, he would have turned 32 in October 14th, 1993. Man, he was a young guy. I'm 38. He was 31 years old. And, he grew up in a Chicago suburb, Arlington Heights. He didn't come from any political royalty. Charlie Kirk was the best that America has to offer. And he was so decent, so much more decent than me. He didn't, get crowned in those Ivy League halls that shaped so many of America's leaders. And I've seen people say, Charlie Kirk would have been president one day. And it could very well have been. By the time he was 18 years old, 18, he had a fire in his belly for freedom, for America. And he didn't feel like he needed the superficial diploma. His confidence came from elsewhere, no doubt from his faith. from God. God gave him a gift. Absolutely. But he founded Turning Point USA in 2012, and I've read that he did it in his garage. It's kind of like, Apple. I mean, you're talking about some guy who's got this dream, this vision of just spreading the intoxicating, in a good way, belief and feeling of Americanism, of freedom, sharing that gift with the country. I mean, and from this idea, look what he accomplished in such a short amount of time. It is incredible. 31 years old, he goes from this idea, Turning Point USA 2012, and now he has created de facto the most powerful conservative youth movement in America. Chapters are on thousands of high school and college campuses. And in fact, a buddy reached out to me just last week and he said, hey, there's this position open, not for me, but he said, because we were talking about Charlie. And he said, they're expanding. They're putting a chapter up here in Northern California. And they were hiring someone for that position. And, Charlie was authentic. Totally authentic. He was a college dropout and he never hid it. You look at Joe Biden, who lied about, his resume. So many politicians that lie about their resumes because they feel insecure. They aren't authentic. They're carrying hot sauce in their purse when they're on a black radio show. Not Charlie. He was proud that he dropped out of college because he knew. He embraced his calling. He knew that it was outside the classroom. He knew it was rallying Americans to reject socialism, to embrace the values of limited government, free markets, strong families, that which made this nation the greatest nation in the history of mankind. Charlie knew it at 18. That's how special he was. He had the Charlie Kirk show, one of the biggest shows on the planet. He was bold. He was combative. He was unapologetically Christian, unapologetically patriotic. And of course, he became close allies of Trump in 2016. And from there, he continued to grow and expand. But his life was cut short yesterday. Shot and killed while doing the thing he was born to do, a Turning Point USA event at Utah Valley University. But he is a martyr, and martyrs don't die. They just multiply. And we now carry the torch of Charlie Kirk's legacy. And I believe good will come from this. Now, I've got some different things I want to play today, some clips of the media and their reaction. I do want to have a serious discussion today. I hope that you are open and willing and ready to do it because the time is now to do that. I put together a little video of Charlie Kirk I want to play for you in a minute to a song that I just happened to randomly play last night. And the song is about Dr. Joseph Warren, actually, who a lot of Americans don't know. Rush Limbaugh actually talked about Joseph Warren. I think some other radio hosts might have from time to time. He was kind of a often overlooked hero of the Civil War. He was born in 1741, Joseph Warren, in Roxbury, Massachusetts. And he was a Harvard-educated physician. He was a doctor. That was his profession. But he wasn't just a man of words. He just wasn't just a doctor. He fought in the Revolutionary War. He was one of the biggest proponents and advocates of freedom and this Constitution in this country that we were creating. And so when the revolution broke out in 1775, Dr. Warren, he joined the militia. And he was appointed a major general, which obviously is a position where you're not running into enemy gunfire for many. But that's not how Joseph Warren looked at the job. Despite being appointed a major general, he chose to fight as a common soldier on the front lines at the Battle of Bunker Hill. And he was killed on the battlefield on June 17th, 1775. He was shot through the head while rallying his men. He was just 34 years old. And that death was a devastating blow to the patriot cause, but it also made him a martyr. And to his fellow revolutionaries, and that's what we are today, Charlie Kirk's fellow revolutionaries. Well, Joseph Warren's sacrifice proved that their cause was righteous, and it emboldened the cause of liberty, because liberty is worth any price. And Charlie Kirk paid the ultimate price. And I just want you to, Joseph Warren is looked at now by, in history, in hindsight, as the man who helped light the fuse of the American Revolution. He gave his life to before the Declaration of Independence was even signed. And Charlie Kirk, too, was ahead of his time. Let's do this first before I get into the painful things that must be said. I want to bring up, it's a 5-minute clip with this wonderful song about Joseph Warren, and I want you to think about Charlie Kirk here as we play it.
Yeah. I love you too. You don't just get to get everything you want. Okay. Well, you have to be on very good behavior to get such a thing like this. Okay? Hold on. You have to behave well. Did you hurt him? I know, but what did you do for it?
Brave men fall with the battle cry. Tears fill the eyes of their loved ones and their brothers. So it went for Joseph Warren. It should have been different. It could have been easy. His rank could have saved him. But a country unborn is bravery, and it spread like wildfire. From the ashes grew sweet liberty, like the seeds of the pine when the forest burns. They open up to grow and burn again. It should have been different, it could have been easy, but too much money rolled in to ever end slavery. The cry for war spread like wildfire. Civil War came, Civil War went. Brother fought brother, South was spent.
Last week was a week that changed my life. And, in a world where everything is put on social media, where everything is constantly being posted and being talked about, we made a decision, my wife and I, to keep one thing rather private. And I'll tell you, it was not easy. This was one of the more difficult things I think I've ever had to do. Not just keep it private and keep it something secret, but also just kind of go through, the process of all of that. And so outside of some close family and friends, my wife Erica and I, we decided not to tell the world that she was pregnant. And so last week, we welcomed our beautiful daughter into the world. Everyone who says it's life-changing, exactly, I mean, it's beyond transformation. It's when you look down in your arms and you see your child, all of a sudden, everything you're fighting for, everything that you care about, everything that you are pushing forward gets into absolute clarity almost instantaneously and immediately. It was without a doubt the most transformational moment of my life.
I was born a southern son in a small southern town where the rebels run wild. They beat their chest and they swear we're gonna rise again. It should have been different, it could have been easy the day that old Horn died. Hate should have gone with it, but here we are, caught in the wild.
Family man. God bless his wife Erica and their kids. All right. We got to get into the hard stuff. And look, I'm not going to do this right now. I will give you a warning, advance warning. You can turn away, not look, when we get to that moment in the show. A buddy of mine, Andy Hooser, who has a syndicated radio show. He's in the top 100 talkers. What a great American he is. Shows growing across the country. Texted me yesterday. Knew he'd booked Charlie through me last year and knew I was a publicist at one point. And he asked me to come on his show, and I did. Went on the show, and it was hard to talk about. Kind of like this. But he asked a question. He said, how do you feel about this graphic footage of, the actual shooting of Charlie Kirk? Is this something you think should be like pulled down and suppressed or seen? And I said it should play on the billboard in Times Square. So this video should be seen by every American in this country. They should be forced to gaze and not look away, because it is time that we stop burying our heads in the sand about what's really happening, what's driving this, the root of this violence, because we know there's no elephant in the room anymore. I've spoken about it at length, and we're going to speak about it today. But before I play that video later on, I will tell you, you will not be the same after watching that video. So today happens to be 9/11, September 11th, 2001. I remember where I was. That was, the worst terrorist attack in American history, of course, on American soil. New York City, the Twin Towers fell. And much like those towers were an iconic image of New York City, Charlie Kirk was an iconic image, not just in this country, but for his family. And as you look at his family and these photos like this one, He won't be erased from memory or experience. But just like the towers, he's no longer there. Imagine that photo without Charlie in it, because that's what his family is going to be doing the rest of his life, of their lives. You know, this isn't an update show about what's going on with the FBI. It's a little demoralizing the way I want to keep things positive, but it's a little demoralizing the way it's been handled to some extent. You know, the information out there about, you know, the white boomer that claimed he did it. It wasn't him. They arrested somebody. You know, you get your hopes up that they found the person and they didn't. I pray they find him soon. I've seen reports about different things. I think that we can safely assume what the motivation was. Donald Trump, we've already lived through a failed assassination attempt, two actually. One at Butler, Pennsylvania, the rally, and another one at Mar-a-Lago with somebody hiding in the bushes that was apprehended. You can go back many years before to Steve Scalise and the shooting of the Congressional Republican baseball team. Steve Scalise miraculously survived. He was shot in the hip, I believe. You can look at what just happened with those kids at Mass. You can look at what happened in Nashville, and we know what's driving this. We know which party meaning people, group, is behind those very ideologies that are fueling the hatred. And we owe it to Charlie, and we owe it to ourselves and our families in this country to stand firm right now. We will not be gaslit. We will not let them get away with brushing this under the rug, with telling us we condemn all political violence. Here's where I want to bring up 9/11. You know, 9/11 came as a big surprise to many people. Obviously, global terrorism was around before that. That was the culmination of some of those efforts. And the world changed on 9/11. We woke up to a new global war. This isn't about whether you think we should have been in Iraq or any of that. That's not what this is about. This is about the fact that Americans realized that radical Islam was a threat to our national security and a threat to our lives. It didn't end with 9/11. Under the Obama administration, you had a proliferation of acts of jihadist acts by radical Islamist terrorists. You had the Fort Hood shooting. A Muslim who had been in contact for over a year and monitored by the FBI, who was in touch with al-Zawahiri, who was eventually killed in a strike. But he was American-born, Yemeni, a Yemeni family, and he was the chief propagandist for Al-Qaeda, English-speaking propagandist. And he'd been in touch with the killer in the first Fort Hood shooting. This is the one where the guy went into a room at Fort Hood and jumped on a table with two pistols and said, invoked Allah's name, and then killed a bunch of Americans and wounded a bunch of other ones. And of course, Barack Obama famously labeled it workplace violence. Workplace violence. Obama did everything he could to pretend that Islam and radical Islam was not a threat, that it wasn't associated. He did everything he could to do that. And where did it get us? We had a wave of terrorist attacks in America. You had in California, you had the couple that went overseas and was radicalized, came back. They carried out a shooting at the husband's workplace. That one, the FBI came out right away, and Obama had no choice but to admit that it was a terrorist attack. But in most of the instances of these terrorist attacks, he would downplay it. We're not going to do that today. I remember where I was on 9/11. I remember singing on TV first before I went to school, growing up in Dallas, Texas. And that day was basically canceled. I mean, we were at school, but everyone was paralyzed. The adults more paralyzed than even the young people. I was a freshman at the time, but I remember walking the halls that morning and everyone was shocked in disbelief that this could happen. I mean, the country changed. But the difference was back then there was unity over 9/11. There was a brief moment where the whole country came together. That didn't happen 25 years later. These are two terrorist attacks. I want to be clear. These are two terrorist attacks 25 years apart almost. 9/11 was a terrorist attack, and the assassination of Charlie Kirk was a terrorist attack. But there was no unity. And there were some after 9/11 that said it was America's fault. We got what was coming to us. You know, there's that attitude. And frankly, the same people that made that argument after 9/11 are the same people making the argument in defense, effectively, of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I'm going to play clips today, and you Democrats, you people on the left, have nowhere to hide. This show is putting up a mirror to you, and the finger points right back at you. And there is no pointing it at me. There is no pointing it at the right. There is no pointing it at anybody but yourself. Stick that finger in your own face. Do you remember, to carry on with this, Barack Obama, he went to the National Prayer Breakfast meeting on one of the occasions. I think it was 2000. I don't remember the date, 13 or 14. You can look it up. So he's sitting there in a room filled with American Christians, and there is widespread Islamist terrorist attacks taking place in America by radical Islamists. And he dares to lecture the room of Christians about how Christians do this too. The Crusades, which ended 700 years ago, which actually are not similar to jihadists at all. And the fact that there may be one example of violence that you can misconstrue as right-wing violence out of 100 examples, and 99 of them are assassination attempts of Trump, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the assassination attempt of congressional Republicans, the assassination attempt of Kavanaugh by the Californian that was spurned on by Chuck Schumer's words, the whirlwind of fury. You don't know what's coming. Left-wing violent rhetoric. We know what's driving this. Radical Democrat Party, which is pretty much the whole party at this point. It doesn't mean every Democrat voter in this country is that person, but too many are. But the Democrat Party itself and the media machine, they are what radical Islam was on 9/11. You in the media, you Democrats that spew this hatred day in and day out, and then say Charlie Kirk was a bigot. Charlie Kirk. This is what I'm imploring you to understand today and never back off at this point, because this is where we are as a country. What radical Islam was to jihad and terrorist attacks in America, that's what's happening now. But the ideology fueling it is not radical Islam. It's the Democrat Party. That's why I say 9/10 is the new 9/11. That's not to say and to dismiss the tragedy of 9/11, but that's to say that we are 25 years from 2001 now, 25 years almost from 9/11. 9/10 happened yesterday, and there is a new terrorism threat in America, and it is coming from the left exclusively. Do not let them gaslight you and tell you that Charlie Kirk and Trump and we are excited, creating a violent. We are not. Because we are peaceful people, because we are rooted in faith. We are rooted in conservative principles. They do not target the opposite. They do not target political parties. They do not call for violence. BLM, Antifa, these are not right-wing organizations. This is the left, propped up and supported by the Democrats. I am sick and tired of it. We cannot sit here anymore and let this continue. We cannot let the Democrats gaslight. The problem in America is radical Democrats. That's the problem. We have a terrorist threat in America, and it is coming from the Democrat Party. Here's Chuck Schumer.
You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you.
Did Charlie Kirk ever speak that way? Never in his life. Never in his life. Here's Gavin Newsom just a month or two ago.
I'm sorry. I know some people's sensibilities. I respect and appreciate that. But right now, with all due respect, we're walking down a damn different path. We're fighting fire with fire, and we're going to punch these sons of bitches in the mouth.
Did Charlie Kirk ever talk like that? We're going to punch these sons of bitches in the mouth? That's Gavin Newsom for you. The very people gaslighting today that are saying, we condemn all political, there's only one political violence in this country, and it's left-wing political violence. So take your generic political violence and shove it where the sun don't shine. You know, Lauren Boebert called for a moment of prayer in Congress yesterday for Charlie Kirk. Seems like it wouldn't be controversial, right? Who wouldn't take a moment to pray for Charlie Kirk? Here's what happened.
What purpose does the gentlelady from Colorado rise? Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. We will join prayer right after this, okay?
So however you want to look at that clip, she wants to pray. There's lots of objections from Democrats in the audience. It ultimately doesn't happen in the room. But you would have thought that that would have been something that everyone could have rallied behind immediately, but it's so divisive that that couldn't even take place. Here's Van Jones the day before Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
Hurt people hurt people. What happened was horrible, but it becomes an opportunity for people to jump on bandwagons. And then for someone like Charlie Kirk, he should be ashamed of himself. No one mentioned the word race, white, black, or anything except him.
Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, other Trump-aligned figures succeeded in making this senseless death a symbol of big city crime.
So the audio wasn't very good. It was a little bit quiet, but you saw Potato Head Brian Stelter. You know, oh, yes, we're politicizing this. Yeah, because it's political. It's a political act of violence. It's political terrorism driven by the left. Of course, it's politicized. You politicized it by trying to kill Trump, by killing Charlie Kirk. That is political. What do you want us to do? Shield you from it? No, that's what's wrong with the country. But you hear Van Jones there, oh, we're racial. What do these people do every time, you know, for their own purposes and narrative, even when it's not true? Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot, right? The football player with his future ahead that was 18 and black. And he reached through a cop's car and tried to grab the gun and shoot the cop. And the cop shot him in self-defense. And Barack Obama and others came out there and said, yeah, his hands up, he got shot in the back. That's not what happened at all. It was a total lie to fit a narrative. Look at George Floyd. That wasn't racially motivated. There were black officers there present at the time. Now, you can say whatever you want about Derek Chauvin. Oh, it was, you know, we don't, you know, it looked nasty. It was excessive use of force. It wasn't about the guy being black. The guy was a criminal and he was being arrested. And had he not had lethal amounts of fentanyl in his system, he probably wouldn't have died. So you can say, oh man, you know, that wasn't racial, but they burned down the country over that. Are we burning down the country after what just happened to Charlie Kirk? No, I'm sitting here on my podcast and praying. I'm speaking. I'm crying. I'm not throwing Molotov cocktails in San Francisco right now, 2.5 hours away from me. That's not what we want. let's interject again. Let's go back and let's play another clip to remember Charlie Kirk here.
What advice do you have for me as I move into adulthood in order to become a more informed and involved citizen?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here, and I have hope thanks to people like you. How old are you again?
13.
13. Here's a couple things I want to encourage you to do. Learn something new every single day, and focus on what it means to be a good person and a person of strong character. Aristotle said that courage is the ultimate virtue. Without it, there are no other virtues. If people aren't courageous, you don't have honesty, you don't have justice, you don't have beauty, you don't have wonder. And so at age 13, I want you to commit yourself to a life of courage. Courage is doing the right thing when you don't know how it's going to work out. Courage is committing yourself to the correct course of action, regardless of the cost associated to it.
Every human being, I believe, is made in the image of the divine, is sacred, is unique. And if we get away from this principle as we have, we not only have moral degradation, we not only have the collapsing society around us, but it's bad for that being itself. That being itself is unique. That being has rights. And who are we to say, just because we're older, that we get to murder it? Thank you.
What a beautiful soul, Charlie. Thank God he has daughters, you know? They will carry on his legacy. The Kirk, son and daughter. Now, this is a clip that I have played over the years. It's about 2 minutes long. I hope you'll stick around and watch this. This is not the clip of Charlie Kirk assassination. Maybe I'll cut it off soon. We don't necessarily need to go 2 minutes, 20 seconds, but the left wants to say, you know, we condemn all acts of political violence. And of course they do that to pretend that it's not unique and exclusive to them. It's like Barack Obama, after a radical Islamist terrorist kills a bunch of Americans, he says, we condemn all acts of political violence. How insulting is that to the memory of Charlie Kirk? How insulting is that to the soul of this country? How insulting is that to you and to me and to the American citizen? We condemn all acts of political violence. Why don't you start by condemning acts of left-wing political violence? That would go a lot further instead of trying to muddy it, water it down. An interesting note about the Fort Hood shooter, so he was in contact with al-Zawahiri, sending emails. There were like 20 emails sent over a period of a little more than a year, and the FBI was monitoring it, but they didn't take action. They said he was just doing research, He was asking al-Zawahiri things like, when might it be appropriate to, kill Americans, troops? Like if they're against, Muslims in the Middle East, can we kill them? Is a suicide bombing appropriate under that circumstance? These are the messages he was sending to al-Zawahiri. And after this Muslim army captain, I believe he was, carried out the terrorist attack, al-Zawahiri immediately put out a message on his English language website praising the act as a heroic act by a Muslim. Al-Zawahiri didn't pull the trigger. The army captain, Muslim, did. But where is the ideology coming from? Al-Zawahiri didn't pull the trigger, but al-Zawahiri was his inspiration. If these ideas hadn't been promoted and filtered through al-Zawahiri, if they weren't available for already lunatics to consume, those people wouldn't be dead. And that's the reality. What poison are we going to allow to continue to fill the hearts and souls of Americans? When will it stop? Who's going to stop it? Because you and I aren't doing it. These people are doing it.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator. You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think
Kamala Harris was talking about BLM burning down our streets. They're not going to let up. They shouldn't let up, and everyone should take note of that. Folks, I'm just trying to tell you what we're dealing with. This has been happening. This poison has been pushed by the Democrats and the left and the media for a long time now. Countless brains and souls have been poisoned. And yesterday, we saw an example, another example of it, one that happened to shock the world. And how should we react to this? I mean, what did we do after 9/11? Again, this isn't about should we have invaded Iraq. But are we going to acknowledge that there's a serious problem and identify it? You know, the reason we never won the quote-unquote war on terror, yes, it was a war against ideology in many ways. It's difficult to win and wage also because the Middle East is, distant. The best you can do is protect yourself and have common sense policies to prevent that type of filth from coming into this country. But part of the reason we couldn't win any wars over the last 20 years is because the objective wasn't to win. We couldn't even name the enemy because we were too tepid about tying Islam to radical Islamist terrorists. You can't win a war that way. And I want to be very clear. I'm not calling for violence. What I'm calling for is honesty. What I'm calling for is calling a spade, not repeating the failures of 9/11. To acknowledge now, today, forevermore, that the problem in this country, the biggest problem and threat to Americans, like Charlie Kirk, like many of us, it's not even radical Islam anymore. It's radical Democrats. That's the threat that we must deal with. And I don't care if you don't like it. I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. I don't want these things to continue happening, and they do continue happening. Okay. Here's your warning. I'm going to play the graphic video of Charlie Kirk being shot. If you're uncomfortable, don't watch, turn away, close your eyes. It's very short. It's 5 seconds. But I believe just like you watched the Twin Towers fall and the effect that had on you and the memory that was seared, the image that was seared in your memory, this should be seared in your memory. We cannot turn away and look the other way anymore. We must face the enemy head on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Not counting gang violence.
Great.
Not counting gang violence.
I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to do it again. These aren't acts of political violence. They're acts against conservatives. They're violent acts against the right, carried out by the left. That's what this is. All right, I want to, we'll close out the show here in a minute. I'll offer some closing thoughts. But I do want to end as best we can with whatever optimism we can glean from this situation. And where I get optimism is this, you know, my faith is very important to me. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that he was the Son of God. I believe that he died for our sins. I believe that there is heaven after this. And that all this pain goes away and we do live in pure happiness with the divine creator himself. And I take solace in knowing that Charlie Kirk knew that. I take solace in knowing that Charlie Kirk understood, had the context in his mind of this world, even as painful as it is for his family right now and the rest of their lives. This is but a blip. We are but a mist, folks. And what we do is so important. Nothing is guaranteed. The next day is not guaranteed. This full day isn't guaranteed. But heaven can be. And Charlie Kirk understood that. Watch this.
I'm just flesh and bone, but more importantly, I'm a soul. And that soul is accountable to one being. I mean, I've had an unbelievably blessed life. Been doing this now, it'll be 12 years on June 5th.
Such a young man to do it.
So young.
Yeah, so praise God. I mean, I've been all across the world. I've met with world leaders. I've flown in Air Force One, got to know a president. I have an amazing family. The podcast, Turning Point USA, all that stuff. And so you experience that and you're like, what actually matters? What matters is your relationship with the divine, your relationship with your family, your kids, and maybe a close collection of friends, and your relationship with the truth.
Folks, that's the most important message to take from Charlie. I am but flesh and blood. Do not let fear prevent you from staking your claim in the truth, from promoting the truth, from saying what must be said because it's true, because it's right. If we do that, we cannot lose. And I'm not going anywhere. Charlie, thank you for paying the ultimate price, for giving us such a living embodiment of what true courage and patriotism looks like. Charlie Kirk is a martyr, and his life was lived to the fullest. What a robust life at 31. Look into the inside. Look at the effect on you and me and so many out there. People that knew him and didn't know him personally. But my heart still breaks for that family and what happened. And we cannot allow that to happen. And we cannot allow that to silence us. I will not be silenced. You can't be silenced. No one can be silenced. It is time to double down on the truth and on reality, okay, folks? You know, I'm not really I am an emotional person on some occasions. I mean, with the family stuff kills me. This kills me, obviously. But I'm not, I can count on like one hand the number of times I've cried in my life. And this isn't about me. This is about how important Charlie Kirk is, okay? That's why I'm telling this story. Not about me. There are people that are like, oh, me, look at this. That's not why I'm telling you this, folks. I'm telling you because I want you to understand the profound impact this man had and how significant he is and how you can be that too in your own way. And I can be that in my own way. And we can all be that together to ensure that his memory and his legacy lives on. you know, I get up in the morning. We have a routine. You know, I get my daughter up at 7. We all wake up at 7 o'clock. I mean, I get up before then to work a lot of times, but 7 o'clock, I get my 2.5-year-old out of bed. That's when my wife also gets up, and our 8-month-old gets up, and we have breakfast together. And then by 8:30, my daughter's got to go to school. So it's a pretty compact timeline. And I sat down next to my 2.5-year-old. We sit at the, I don't know, like not a bar, but, you know, whatever, the tabletop in the kitchen. It's wood. Then we have a bunch of bar stools, and we spend most of our time in there as a family. And my daughter was sitting on a corner in her kind of high chair that's fixed to it. And I sat next to her to have my breakfast. And I just broke down in tears. I broke down in tears because, you know, it's not to diminish other events and tragedies, but it's just different when, I mean, I could put myself in the shoes. I can look in my own home, and it's too similar. It's too similar. The idea, this could be the last moment I share with my daughter at breakfast. This could be the last moment I share with my 2 daughters or my wife. That this is the last memory they'll have of me. And you know what killed me? This turned out to be true. Charlie Kirk, I said, Jesus, don't let it be true. His wife and kids were at the university when the shooting took place. They were there. But anyway, look, folks, God, I love this country. I do. I love the people. I love the culture that Charlie spoke about, which is American culture. I want that back so bad. I don't want to deal with this anymore. But the only way to not deal with it anymore is to fight it and be victorious. So everyone, please just search in your own heart, your soul, your mind. Pray. Pray for guidance on what we can do, how we can end this, how God will use you to restore this nation, because it is so broken. It is so broken, but Charlie Kirk proved he gave his life for this country. And it's worth the ultimate price, as it has been from the beginning of our history. All right, folks. Thank you for being with me today. God bless you all. God bless you, Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk, his wife, and 2 kids. May God wrap his arms around you and bring you comfort. Thank you.